to be here. Let's talk about making connections virtually, how to showcase your true colors on video. I am your host, Meg Lewis. I'm a designer, performer, comedian, educator. I create custom content and experiences to connect happy brands with their community. Basically, I'm just here to make the world a happier place and be fulfilled at the same time. I'm looking to thrive in my career and life, and I teach other people how to exactly do that too. So, my design work, I'm a designer by trade and by skill. So, I get paid a lot by companies and brands to make the world a happier place through the visuals that I create for them. Whether that's brand design experiences or illustrations, I like to make that world a happier place and connect audiences and communities with these brands in friendly, positive, upbeat ways. All right. But beyond that, I'm not just one thing. I am more than one thing. And I love to perform. I'm a comedian, a clown. I do stage combat. And so I blend all of those things together with design and experiential design to create experiences for audiences around the world that nobody else could, because I have a unique combination of skills and personality traits. So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about you today. Okay. So, beyond that, the work that I do with education and the message that I share on stages is helping brands and individuals to celebrate their most unique selves. So, that can happen in so many ways through career strategy, through articulating who you are and showcasing that visually through a unique personal style, or by creating those unique consumer and customer experiences between brands and their communities. All right, all right, all right. But I have a career that only I could possibly have. Nobody else could do what I do because I am so many things, and combined, they make a unique person, which is me. And so I have a career where I can do something for the world that nobody else could. And that's what I'm the most excited about helping other people to determine is what they can do for the world that nobody else could, too. All right. So, to get a little bit sad, as we know, we are all taught to conform to societal expectations. And that's what being an adult is. And it's really sad. And we're going to dive into that deeper. But I want to talk about specifically professional settings because this happens a lot there. We all know what a buttoned up professional person looks like, acts like, behaves like. And we're all taught to do that, or else we won't be successful. And I think that we know that model doesn't necessarily usually work, because that just creates a world where everybody's just being bland and boring. And how are you going to compete with anybody in this market when you're just bland and boring and playing the game and following along? It's very difficult. So we're all taught to do this, and I get it. Going against this is really scary. It's really intense, overwhelming, dangerous. You'll get made fun of. You'll get called out because you're different, and it's scary. I get that. But what we're going to do today is find your comfort zone and then go just a little bit over the comfort zone. So that way we can show you and train your brain to realize that whenever you're different, when you're a little bit more yourself loudly, it actually gives you a lot greater reward in return. Okay. So the model of studying what successful people do and just doing that. This is what we're taught in school. This is what we're taught very early on in our lives and in our careers. Is if you want to do something professionally, have to go and look to see who's really successful at that thing, study what they do, and then what we're taught is to just emulate that. So for example, say you want to redo your website and you look at other people in your industry who are like really crushing it, and you look at their websites and you say, what are they doing? I'll just do that because they're really successful. That's what we're taught to do. But we don't want to do that anymore, because whenever we study what people do and we just repeat that, emulate that, of course, it just creates this repetition, unoriginality. It creates a landscape where everything is flattened and looks the same. And we know that the world wants us to be flattened, to be just the same as one another, because that helps people sell more things to us, right? Whenever we're all the same and we're just following in line and doing exactly whatever, this is me marching with everyone else, doing what everybody else is doing, okay? And it suppresses any kind of individuality or autonomy that we might have as our own unique selves. And it just promotes trend following. And the problem I have with trends is that trends exist to sell us things and to make us constantly feel like we're not good enough. So we need to keep buying more things to catch up and to keep ourselves feeling relevant. We don't want to do that. We want to train the world to realize that we don't need trends. We don't need to stay relevant. We need to stay true to ourselves. As long as we're not causing harm to ourselves or other people, there's nothing wrong with us. So we do not need to change and keep buying new things to catch up and keep up with everybody else, right? Now, what does this have to do with virtual spaces? We're going to get there because we know that the people that aren't just doing what everybody else is doing, those people are the actual innovators. We know that those are the innovators that are not following the formula. They're doing something truly uniquely original and different from everybody else. They're the ones that usually start the new trends because everyone goes, something new, a new option, let's do that now. And then they march towards that direction and do what that person's doing. So the innovators are the ones that are brave enough to go out and above and beyond what everyone else is doing and do something truly original and unique to themselves. And those people are usually the most fulfilled out of all of us, too. We know this. It's so much more refreshing to find somebody on the internet to follow that's actually doing something unique and not just following the same formulas that everybody else is following. We get that. We know that this works. And it's just really scary to actually do that for ourselves, right? Okay, yeah, of course. But I do believe, and I know this is true, that every single human being can do, make, or create something for the world that absolutely nobody else could. And I have a lot of formulas for how we can figure that out for ourselves as unique individuals. It's mostly about articulating what makes you who you are, squishing it all together, and figuring out it's like a big puzzle. Figuring out how you can take all of the elements of what makes you who you are, your personality, your skill set, your lifelong points of inspiration, your unique points of view and perspectives on the world, and taking all of that and figuring out how you can combine it in order to sell yourself as doing something unique. And that's the world I want to live in, right? A better world for all of us when we can all figure out what this is for ourselves rather than just following along with what everybody else is doing. All right, so let's talk about the power of authentic self expression. And we're going to go a lot into virtual spaces here, of course, because this is remote works. But I also want you to know that you can think about this holistically as career strategy and throughout your life, personally and professionally, too. Okay? All right, so let's dive into kids for a second. Just today, I was actually walking into my studio space and I noticed a group of kids. I live in New York City, and in New York City, they take kids on field trips, of course, from daycares, and they kind of all put them in a line together. They're all kind of holding on to like a large leash, I guess, lack of better term. I'm sure there's a word for this that I don't know. And they're all holding on to this rope um to keep them centered so that they don't stray away from the adults. So they're all holding on to something and walking together in a line. Very common. I just want you to have a visual here. That's why I'm going into such great detail. I saw this group, and this group of kids, they were all dressed so colorfully with so much energy and play in the way that they were dressed and showcasing themselves to the world. And it was so nice to see that much color together. And then I looked around to all the other pedestrian adults that I saw on the street, and they were all wearing just neutral tones. And as somebody, I dress in color a lot. And in the winter, when I go out, a lot of strangers comment to me, like, that's too much color for this season. Like, it's wintertime. You're too bright. I can't. Anyway, so let's talk about kids. Kids naturally are playful. They're silly, they're nonsensical, they do not take the world very seriously. They are excited about life. They're excited to learn and to play and to have fun. They love color. If you ask a kid to tell you about themselves, they know exactly who they are. They can answer questions about themselves so easily. They can tell you about all their interests and what their personality is like and what things they're into and who they are and what things they're good at. They know exactly who they are if you ask a kid these questions. Kids can create, they can make and design and create things without thinking about perfection or thinking about boundaries or parameters or instructions or rules. And they can just endlessly create without instruction, which I absolutely love. So they have this ability to have unrestrained self expression without any kind of self consciousness whatsoever. Eh, And this, hopefully, we can keep on to and hang on to as with kids as long as possible, because at some point in all of our lives, you, myself included, adults come along and they tell kids, no, 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 actually, since you look like you're supposed to be specific. And you're supposed to have certain qualities and attributes and personality traits that are associated with a human being that looks like you. So we're often told that, and then as kids, and then all of a sudden our freedom and our creativity and our playfulness gets stifled, and then we become socialized, boring adults. But what I love so much about kids is they do exactly what boring adults with a lot of power want us to do. And the algorithms, like everything that's working against adults, is trying to, as I mentioned, flatten us all, make us become homogenous, like a very flat culture where we all want to be the same kind of person. So we all buy things to like become that person, right? And we want to follow the rules and stay in line and be that flattened version of ourselves. No, the powerful people in the world don't want us to like feel any kind of humanity, curiosity, play, joy, none of that. They want us to just put our head down, get to work, make it happen, and then hopefully someday we'll retire or go on vacation, and then we'll be happy and be able to play and feel joy. But kids, this is what they do. This is who they are. This is who we all were at some point in our lives before we were told that we couldn't be this anymore. All right. So comparing ourselves to adults, if we think about adults, whenever we play, it's only when we're granted permission. Like we have to go to an activity fun zone, we have to go bowling or laser tag, a bumper car. That's not even adults, I feel like, don't even feel appropriate at bumper cars. It's so sad. And so we have to give ourselves these like little moments of permission in order to play. But beyond that, we're not allowed to. And we've told ourselves that it's not okay. It's not appropriate to be playful outside of those environments. We're also told that we can't be silly. We can't be nonsensical. We can't be weird publicly, or else it's cringe. It's cringy. But what I think about cringy behavior or people that label things as cringe is just them looking at somebody else who's doing something that they themselves would be too embarrassed to do. And that is on them, not on the person that's being cringe. Because usually cringiness is just silly, nonsensical weirdness that is totally appropriate for kids, but we've told ourselves is not okay for adults. It's really sad. And as I mentioned, the adults, too afraid to wear colors, so comfortable just to be in our neutrals all the time, just blend in. Ah. And of course, adults, if I ask the same questions to kids and adults about, like, tell me about your personality, your skills, what are you good at? What are you really into right now? Like, kids can answer it so fast. Adults takes them so long to think about it. I do a lot of work with adults on this stuff, and it takes them so long in a very many multi-week, month, year-long process to actually uncover who they are. Because most people don't actually know who they are apart from what the world has told them that they are. And it's very difficult for adults to figure out actually what makes them who they are. It's terrifying. So, adults also need rules and structure. If I get a group of adults in a room and I tell them to create art and don't give them any parameters, and I just tell them to like scribble on some paper, add more texture, add more color, keep going, um, it's very frustrating process for all of them. It's very difficult. It's scary. And then if I take all of that work from the adults, put it on the wall, and then bring out the previous class's work and show it to them, the previous class is kids. And whenever I put up the kids' work next to the adults' work, the adults always think it's like extremely talented other adults that are like way more advanced than them. No, it's just kids, because kids can create without rules, structure, and parameters. Adults, we just need to be told what to do. It's so sad. Anyway, we've totally gotten lost with our out of touch with our authenticity of who we actually are individually. Not this curated version of being authentic that we've been told is like vulnerability, authenticity on social media. I'm talking about like actually who are we? Like, but really though, not a curated version of that ever. No. All right. So showing your true colors allows you to, first of all, strategically stand out. If we can figure out who we are as individuals uniquely and we can actually showcase that to the world, it helps us to literally stand out, to stand out beyond our competition, and to be able to showcase ourselves as doing something for the world that nobody else is or can. It helps us to make better communication and connection with other people. So it helps us to create and facilitate vulnerable spaces where we're actually being ourselves with one another, even though we're different from one another. It helps us to think uniquely as ourselves and create a practice of doing so that we can unlock our best ideas yet and create that beautiful energy of creating work and creating and generating ideas that are unique to us that nobody else could have. So we're tapping into our unique brains. But my favorite part is that showing your true colors gives other people the safety to do so themselves. So when you're loudly yourself, it inspires other people to do the same for them. All right? So let's figure out, it's very difficult to actually understand who we actually are, apart from what the world has told us we should be. So let's get into it. All right. So let's talk about your personality. This is the biggest part of showcasing your true colors, is figuring out what personality traits that you have that make you who you are. What I like to do with all of this stuff is think back to when I was a kid. What personality traits did I have when I was a kid that have stuck with me throughout my life and are still with me today? Because that means that it's truly a part of who you are. It's going to most likely be true for you as you continue forward with your life, right? So whenever you take all of your personality traits, you and I might have a few of them in common, but when you combine all of your personality traits together, it creates a cloud of traits that you have that nobody else has that combination of, which I think is really interesting. So if we can take all of this information and visually communicate it and visually communicate our personalities, then we can start to showcase and combine traits visually that other people don't have. So if you have two traits that maybe visually don't go together, like for me, I'm extremely organized but also very chaotic. So I like to make sure that you can see that in the spaces and in my wardrobe and in the way that I decorate and design. Is I like to have chaos with organization and clean design. Great. So you can combine two things that people don't normally put together because they do exist in you. All right, your skills, the things that you're really good at. This is your superpower of combined abilities. So that it could include all the things that you've like trained really hard and practiced really hard to get good at. It could include the things that you're naturally good at. What I like to think also is back to when I was a kid, what was I really good at when I was really little that I'm still good at today? Those ones are amazing, but these are beautiful because if you can take and utilize your skill set and combine it with your personality. So say you and I are both we're both public speakers, but I can utilize my personality in a way that you couldn't, and vice versa. So that way we can give two very different talks on stage that feel very different because we have different personas. We're different people, right? Yeah. So we're not just studying what other successful speakers have done, we're doing it in a way that only uniquely we could as individuals. All right, your influences. These are the lifelong points of inspiration, the things that you were really into when you were a kid that you're still into today. What were those things? Those things that seemed like a little unique to you at the time and they've stuck with you your whole life. So these are the things that have actually shaped and informed who we are. Whereas nowadays, if we look at inspiration, we're likely all going to look on the internet. Maybe we'll all go to Pinterest. We're all going to get faced and served the same inspiration. So that's how things end up looking homogenous. This is how trends are perpetuated. It's because we're all looking at the same inspiration all day. But if you can tap into your unique lifelong points of inspiration and grab onto those as your influences, as your inspiration, then you can try and figure out how you can showcase your visual style and showcase all of these things visually to the world. Okay. So for me, when I was a kid, I was really into clowns and mimes and silent comedies and people that were really expressive with their faces. And so that is a huge part of the style that I have now because those are all the things that I was really into when I was a kid that I'm still into now. So I can actually take all the visuals from those things, that visual data, and push it forward in the work that I make and the way that I dress and the way that I decorate my spaces. And you can see that. You can see it's happening. All right. So this one is really good if you're trying to figure out what kind of visual style you could have. All right, your perspectives, your unique point of view on the world that is so unique to your brain that nobody else has it, right? Okay, so here we go. You know, when you're having a conversation with somebody, whether it's at work or in personal life, and you say something that seems really obvious to you, but they look surprised and they say, oh, I never thought about it that way before. Write that down when that happens because that is huge. That means that your brain is thinking about something in a unique way that does not come naturally to others. And that's the world I want to live in. I want to live in a place where we can all share our unique perspectives. What? Diversity of thought? Beautiful. All right. Okay, so let's talk about using virtual tools to showcase and communicate our authenticity, our true colors, who we actually are. And this is so fun for me as a designer because tools like and so many others allow us to create these beautiful visual spaces where we can actually put forth our personality, put forth our skill set, showcase our unique influences and lifelong points of inspiration, really take charge of our unique perspectives and points of view as well. So these tools can really help us curate our world that we're showing the rest of the world who we are as unique people, our true colors, right? So we can utilize this virtual environment in order to do that, in order to communicate what makes us truly uniquely great. And I love that so much. Like you can see with just my presentation, everything I'm doing to do just that, whether it's the background border that I have, my slides, my actual environment behind me, which is real. This is not a green screen, but you could create a green screen if you don't have control over your environment and create your own digital background. It's so fun to work with. So, what I also like to do is incorporate multimedia content in order to showcase my style. And my style is just my way of saying my personality, my skill set, my lifelong points of inspiration, my unique brain, visually, how I'm communicating that visually is my personal style, right? So, we can use a lot of content and multimedia content to do that and to showcase that to the world. What I like to do is, like you're seeing in this presentation, change the layout every so often so that way people get a refreshed view of who you are. Yeah. Bada bing, bada bang. I've never said that before. All right. Let's talk about actually amplifying your authentic presence in these virtual spaces. All right. So I love that virtual environments give us even more actually freedom of self expression. Because if, say, this was not a virtual conference and this was actually an in person event, I'd be on a stage. I wouldn't have control of what the stage looks like. I wouldn't have control of a lot of the elements. I wouldn't have a choice of what you're sitting in and like what you're seeing, except for some slides. But in virtual spaces, I have so much control over uh, everything, everything around here. So that way you can really understand who I am as an individual and what makes me unique and amazing. I can do this. I have control, more control than I would have in person spaces, right? It also allows you to curate experiences that allow you to holistically let yourself and your energy shine. And I love that. I think a lot of people find it way more comfortable to be their weird, silly, nonsensical, cringy selves on the internet because there's not a bunch of eyeballs judging you. I can't see you. I can't see you, but you can see me, which is kind of creepy, but whatever. So I can actually let my 100% vibrant energy shine virtually, which I think is so magical and beautiful. Oh. But I also want to make sure that you understand that more so than visuals, even words, the words I'm using, the energy, my body language matters because I want you to understand that I have a on point energy. Oh, Meg, so much. I don't know. Um, so my body language matters. Your words matter. The way that you talk matters. I want you to get out of your head of thinking of yourself as a curated, professional version of yourself and showcase and show up as your actual non curated self. Because again, as long as you are not causing harm to yourself or other people, you are perfect as you are. I want you to show up as that self. That's the version of you that the world wants to see. That's refreshing to people. That allows people to see that you are someone doing something, being somebody that nobody else could. And humans love to see that. It gives them the permission to do that for themselves too. All right. So let's talk about the ripple effect of authentic expression. Aha. Woo! All right. So, whenever you do actually get the courage and the energy to boldly show up as yourself, yes, it does. It truly does give people the permission to do that also. I do not want a world full of Megs, people being inspired by me and then doing exactly me. I don't want that. I want people to see me and hear me talk and then say, okay, that's cool. How do I do that, but for me? How do I figure out that, but my way? That's what's really exciting for me, too. And honestly, even when people are like inspired by, say, my style, my design style, illustration style, the way that I dress, a lot of times I'll see people say, like, I want to make work just like yours. And then they do. And other people say, Meg, this person copied your work. And I look at the work and I think, no, wait, my brain would have never made it that way. Their brain is unique to mine. I wouldn't have made choices exactly like that. And in many ways, theirs is better. And in other ways, mine's better. It's just different. We have different brains. So nobody can really copy one another's style in this world because we're showcasing and celebrating why our brains and how our brains are so unique and different from one another, which I think is just so beautiful. All right. So, doing so also creates these beautiful, diverse collaborative spaces. So, say in a dream world, we're all in a Zoom together and you're doing your thing, somebody else over there doing their thing. We're all living loudly, uniquely as ourselves. That's the world I want to live in, where we're just different and okay with that. And we're being loud ourselves, loudly ourselves, visually ourselves, and we're all different and we're all celebrating each other individually. I know why it's hard and we can't have that, but I think that you, if you're here listening to me, you have the freedom to do that. And while we're free and we can, we should, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm getting warm. All right. And I think that this creates wonderful connections. The energy that you put off when you're being authentically, truly yourself, it creates a beautiful energy of acceptance and safety for other people. And that is where real connections happen. That's where we can actually relate with one another and connect with each other and make actual valuable change in this world happen too. All right, that is my cue. I need to move it on. Moving on, Meg. Wrap it up. All right, so to summarize, you have an entirely unique combination of traits that the world absolutely needs, whether it's your personality, your skill set, your unique points of view, your lifelong points of inspiration, all of that. You have a unique combination of things that, when put together, it makes you a person that is unlike anybody else in this world. And I think that is mind blowing and incredible. So, what are you doing just being like everybody else? Why? We have to stop. We have to stop. All right. So virtual tools, they give us the creative ability to actually stop, to actually showcase who we uniquely are. All parts of us, right? It's beautiful. And whenever you're doing this and expressing yourself authentically, virtually, and showing your true colors, you inspire that from other people. You're doing bigger work than just me and you. You're helping and inspiring other people. That is huge. That is like a huge life purpose to have. And you are creating genuine, actual connections with other people, not fake, not curated connections where everyone's just like, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for your time. And then we shut our laptops and go, which is what happens to me a lot when I'm in those spaces. Okay. So doing this and creating actual virtual true connections, it creates these like beautiful environments full of wonderful energy that I just love. And my favorite part of all is that doing so injects the world with what they don't want us to do: play, joy, curiosity, humanity, love for each other, support for one another, individuality. Ugh. I want this world, and I believe we can get there if we just try. Ugh. Okay. It's bigger than you and I because we are working here. We are all working here just to do this work. It's really hard. The world doesn't want us to do this. And if we can just push through, we can make other people feel comfortable to do the same, to make the world a better place, starting with virtually and showcasing your true colors on video. All right. I'm here in the middle now. Tiny. Thank you so much. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I love you so much. My name is Meg Lewis. If you want to follow me on the internet, I'm at your buddy Meg, or head to meglewis.com. Okay, bye-bye.